How I discovered my sister faked a chronic illness to drain $230,000 from our parents, and nearly stole my apartment. I'm going to tell you a story about my sister. About 8 years of lies, $230,000 in stolen retirement savings, and the moment I finally had enough evidence to prove what I'd suspected since I was 22 years old. My sister is 35 now. I'm 30. And until 6 months ago, everyone in my family believed she was dying slowly from a mysterious chronic illness that no doctor could properly diagnose, no treatment could cure, and no medical record seemed to exist for. I didn't believe it. I never believed it. But I stayed quiet for 8 years because who questions illness? Who demands proof of suffering? What kind of monster asks their sick sister to produce lab results? Me, apparently. I'm that monster now. And I don't regret it for a second. Part 1. The beginning of the performance. Let me take you back 8 years. I was 22, fresh out of college, drowning in student loans, working an entry-level IT job that paid just enough to cover rent and ramen. My sister was 27, had been bouncing between jobs for years, and had just announced to the family that she'd received a devastating diagnosis. The diagnosis was vague from the start. She called it a complex chronic condition involving chronic fatigue, joint pain, and sensitivity to environmental factors. When my parents asked for specifics, she said she was too overwhelmed to share the detailed medical records. When I asked what exactly was wrong with her, she'd use terminology she clearly Googled, words like dysautonomia and mast cell activation and chemical sensitivity disorder, stringing them together in ways that sounded medical but never quite made sense. My parents believed her instantly. Why wouldn't they? This was their daughter. Their firstborn. The child they'd raised and loved and trusted for 27 years. When your daughter tells you she's sick, you don't demand receipts. But I had doubts from day one. Something about the way she announced it felt rehearsed. Something about the way she deflected specific questions felt practiced. When I asked her to name her doctor, she said, "You wouldn't know him." When I asked which hospital she went to, she said, "A clinic across town." When I asked to see her test results, she said, "HIPAA prevents me from sharing without my consent." I said, "So give consent." She said, "I'm not comfortable with that. My health is private." And that was that. For 8 years, that was that. Part 2. The illness evolves. Over the following years, my sister built an entire identity around being sick. Her illness became her personality, her excuse, her career. She couldn't work, too exhausted. She couldn't clean her apartment, joints hurt too much. She couldn't cook, chemical sensitivity to certain foods while cooking. She couldn't exercise, dangerous for my condition. She couldn't socialize much, overwhelming for my nervous system. But she could, somehow, travel occasionally for her mental health. She could shop online extensively. She could maintain active social media accounts. She could binge entire television series. She could eat out at restaurants when someone else was paying. Her illness was remarkably selective, debilitating for responsibilities, perfectly manageable for pleasures. The condition conveniently worsened whenever she needed something. Needed money? I'm having a flare. Needed attention? I think I'm developing new symptoms. Needed to avoid family obligations? I'm too sick to travel, but please send gift cards. I watched this performance for years. I watched her wince at family dinners, moving slowly, speaking softly, doing the brave suffering routine that made my parents rush to her side. I watched her dark circles that looked suspiciously like makeup. I watched her episodes that involved collapsing dramatically into a chair, never actually fainting, never actually injured, just folding into herself in a practiced way that guaranteed attention. And I said nothing. Because what could I say? I think you're faking. I had no proof. Just suspicion. Just a gut feeling that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong with this picture. Part 3. The financial drain. Here's where the story gets darker. My parents are not wealthy people. My dad worked construction his whole life. Hard, physical labor that destroyed his back and his knees. My mom was a teacher. Decent salary, good pension, but nothing extravagant. They raised us in a small house they saved 20 years to buy. They drove used cars. They took modest vacations. They were careful, responsible people who believed in saving for retirement. And then my sister got sick. Over 8 years, my parents supported her completely. Rent for her apartment, $1,100 a month. Groceries delivered to her door because she was too exhausted to shop, $400 a month. Medical expenses, including supplements, special foods, and mysterious treatments, $600 a month. Spending money for basic necessities, $300 a month. Total, approximately $2,400 every single month. Over 8 years, roughly $230,000. My parents are 64 and 61 now. They should be thinking about retirement, about traveling, about enjoying the life they worked so hard to build. Instead, they've drained their savings accounts. They've cashed out their retirement funds. My dad took a second mortgage on their house, the house they spent 20 years paying off, because his daughter needed treatment money. All for a woman who was perfectly healthy. All for a performance. Meanwhile, I received nothing. You're healthy, you can manage. And I did manage. I worked 2 jobs during college. I paid off my student loans by myself. I built my career in IT through long hours and late nights and weekends spent learning new skills. At 28, I bought my first apartment. $141,000, first floor, quiet neighborhood, small garden in the back. Everything I have, I built with my own hands. Nobody helped. Nobody offered. I was the healthy one. The capable one. The one who didn't need anything. I learned to need nothing from them. It was lonelier than I'll ever admit. Part 4. The Demand. 6 months ago, my parents called a family meeting. This wasn't unusual. We had family dinners regularly, my sister performing her illness routine while my parents fussed over her. But this meeting had a different energy. A purpose. My sister was there when I arrived, looking exhausted as usual. Dark circles under her eyes. Moving slowly. Wincing occasionally. Performance art-level commitment. My parents sat me down in the living room, their faces serious. My dad spoke first. Your sister's condition is getting worse. My mom nodded. Her current apartment is on the 3rd floor. The stairs are killing her. Her doctor says she needs ground floor housing with better conditions. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I knew where this was going. My dad continued. Your apartment is perfect. Ground floor, small garden for fresh air, quiet street. Good for her health. My mom reached for my hand. We want you to give your apartment to your sister. You're young, healthy, you can find another place. She needs this to survive. I looked at my sister. She was doing the brave suffering face, slight frown, occasional wince, eyes that said, I hate being a burden but I am one. It was a masterclass in manipulation. I know it's a lot to ask, she said, her voice weak and trembling. But I wouldn't ask if I weren't desperate. My body is failing me. This apartment could give me years. I noticed she didn't make specific claims. Didn't name the condition precisely. After 8 years, I still didn't know exactly what she supposedly had. Because there was nothing specific to know. Part 5. The Questioning. Something snapped in me that day. 8 years of silence, 8 years of watching my parents drain themselves for this performance, and now she wanted my home. The apartment I saved for, worked for, built my life around. The one thing that was truly mine. I started asking direct questions. What exactly is your diagnosis? My sister's eyes flickered, just for a moment. It's complex. Multiple overlapping conditions. Name 1. Chronic fatigue syndrome combined with fibromyalgia and environmental sensitivity disorder. 3 conditions that are notoriously difficult to verify and easy to fake. 3 conditions with symptoms that are entirely subjective: fatigue, pain, sensitivity. No blood tests to confirm. No imaging to prove. Just the patient's word. What medication are you on? I'm doing holistic treatment. Western medicine doesn't understand my condition. Of course. No prescriptions to verify because she's not actually sick. Who is your doctor? Dr. Morrison at a clinic across town. You wouldn't know him. I'd like to talk to him. HIPAA. He can't talk to you without my consent. So give consent. Her mask flickered. That practiced calm cracked just slightly. I'm not comfortable with that. My health is private. 8 years of hiding behind privacy. 8 years of, you wouldn't understand, and, it's too complex, and, I can't share that. 8 years of a fortress built from vagueness, and she was hiding inside it, counting our parents' money. Part 6. The Parental Shield. My parents jumped in immediately. My mom's voice rose. Stop interrogating her. She's sick. Can't you see how much pain she's in? My dad's face reddened. What kind of brother questions his sister's illness? She's been suffering for 8 years. We've watched her struggle. I kept my voice calm. She's been claiming illness for 8 years. In all that time, none of us have seen a single medical document. Not one lab result. Not one specialist report. Not one prescription. Not one hospital bill. Don't you think that's strange? My mom shook her head. She's too sick to deal with bureaucracy. We trust her. That's what family does. You've spent $230,000 trusting her. All I'm asking for is one piece of paper. One. Any piece of paper with a doctor's signature that says she's actually sick. My sister started crying. The tears came on cue, spilling down her cheeks in perfect streams. I can't believe my own brother thinks I'm lying. Do you know what it's like to live in this body? Every day is a battle. Every morning I wake up and I don't know if I'll be able to function. And now my own family doubts me. My own brother. She collapsed dramatically, not fainting, just folding into herself, holding her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. My parents rushed to her side. My mom wrapped her arms around her. My dad glared at me like I was the villain. Look what you've done, my mom hissed. She could have an episode. I held my dad's gaze. What kind of episode? Specifically. Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. Because there was nothing specific to know. I left that night with my parents' anger burning holes in my back. But I also left with a mission. Update 1. The investigation begins. The next morning, I started investigating. I'm an IT professional. Research is what I do. I solve problems by gathering data, analyzing patterns, following digital trails. My sister thought she was smart, hiding behind medical privacy laws and vague diagnoses. But she'd never dealt with someone who knew how to actually look. First, the doctor. Dr. Morrison at a clinic across town. I called every clinic within 20 miles. I asked for Dr. Morrison. I asked about specialists who treated chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. I searched medical board registrations, practitioner directories, online reviews. No one had heard of Dr. Morrison. No specialist by that name was registered in our state. I expanded my search to neighboring states. Nothing. The doctor my sister had been seeing for 8 years, the one whose treatment required $600 a month in medical expenses, didn't seem to exist. I kept digging. Second, social media. My sister was careful on her main accounts. Her Instagram was full of chronic illness warrior posts, quotes about fighting invisible battles, photos of her looking tired and pale, updates about bad days and small victories. She was active in chronic illness support groups, sharing her story, receiving sympathy, building a community around her suffering. But I remembered something. A mutual friend had mentioned once, years ago, that my sister had a Finsta, a fake Instagram account where people post things they don't want everyone to see. I'd filed that information away and never thought about it again. Until now. I spent 3 hours working through mutual connections, trying different username combinations, searching for accounts that followed the same people my sister's main account followed. And finally, I found it. The Finsta told a different story. Photos at hiking trails. My sister smiling, healthy, strong, standing at the top of a mountain with her arms raised in victory. Dancing at a concert, arms above her head, body moving, face flushed with joy. Playing volleyball at a beach, diving for the ball, laughing with friends, not a trace of fatigue or pain in sight. The posts were dated. The hiking photo was from 6 weeks ago. The concert was last month. The volleyball game was 3 weeks ago. While my parents worried about her climbing stairs. While my dad took out a second mortgage for her treatment. While my mom made special trips to deliver groceries because my sister was too exhausted to shop. She was hiking, dancing, playing sports, living her life. I screenshot everything. Update 2. The supplement scam. But I wasn't done. The $600 monthly medical expenses still bothered me. If there was no doctor, what was that money actually going toward? I found the supplement company my parents had been paying for, a brand called Vitalife Naturals that my sister claimed was essential for managing her symptoms. Special formulas. Specific dosages. The only thing keeping me functioning, she told my parents. Vitalife Naturals was an MLM, a multi-level marketing company. Pyramid scheme with vitamins. And my sister wasn't just a customer. She was a distributor. I found her distributor profile online, complete with her photo and a sales pitch about how these supplements had changed her life. She'd been running a side business this whole time, using my parents' money to buy inventory she was trying to resell. The supplements weren't for her health. They were for her business. Every month, my parents sent $600 for her medical treatment. Every month, that money went straight into MLM inventory that filled her apartment. The treatment that was keeping her alive was a pyramid scheme funded by my parents' retirement. The betrayal had layers I hadn't even imagined. I documented everything. I built a folder. Screenshots. Records. Search results. The non-existent doctor. The Finsta photos. The MLM distributor profile. The complete absence of any actual medical evidence over 8 years. I wasn't going to ambush my sister at a family dinner. That would let her perform, deflect, cry her way out of it. I was going to show my parents the evidence privately. They deserved to see the truth without the performance interfering. Update 3. The confrontation. I called my parents and asked to meet them without my sister. They were reluctant, worried something was wrong, worried I was going to fight about the apartment again. I told them I had information they needed to see. We met at their kitchen table. I'd printed everything out, a folder, organized with tabs, evidence labeled and dated. I slid it across to them. I need to show you something, and I need you to look at all of it before responding. They opened the folder. I watched their faces as they went through it. First, the Finsta photos. My sister hiking, smiling, strong. Dancing at a concert. Playing volleyball. Dates visible in the corners. Recent. All recent. My mom's hand went to her mouth. My dad's jaw tightened. Next, the MLM records. The distributor profile. The supplement company's pyramid structure. The evidence that the $600 monthly medical expenses were actually inventory purchases for a side business. My dad stared at the records for a long time. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. Finally, the doctor search. The absence of any Dr. Morrison in our state. The complete lack of any evidence that my sister had ever been treated by anyone, anywhere, for anything. They went through the folder in silence. When they finished, nobody spoke for a long time. My mom broke first. These photos, these could be old. I shook my head. Check the dates. The hiking photo is from 6 weeks ago. The concert was last month. The volleyball game was 3 weeks ago. These are time-stamped. My dad was still staring at the MLM records. She told us these supplements were keeping her alive. She said without them. He couldn't finish the sentence. My mom started crying. Not angry tears. Grief tears. She was mourning something. 8 years of sacrifice that meant nothing. $230,000 that funded a lie. A retirement that evaporated into someone's hiking trips and MLM inventory. We gave her everything, my mom whispered. Everything we had. Your father's retirement. Our savings. The house. My dad's voice was hollow. I took a second mortgage. I'm 64 years old with a construction worker's body, and I have 15 more years of payments. Because my daughter said she was dying. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say that could make this better. Update 4. The unraveling. My parents called my sister that evening. Asked her to come over. She arrived in full performance mode, slow walk, pained expression, careful sitting, the whole routine she perfected over 8 years. My mom put the folder on the table. Explain these. My sister opened it. I watched from across the room as the color drained from her face. She flipped through the photos, herself hiking, dancing, playing volleyball, and her hand started shaking. She tried every defense. Minimizing, those photos are misleading. I have good days and bad days. On good days, I try to live a little. You can't expect me to stay in bed forever. My dad's voice was ice. You told us you couldn't climb stairs. You said the stairs to your apartment were killing you. That same month, you were hiking in the mountains. Deflecting, the supplements do help me. Just because I sell them doesn't mean I don't use them. Lots of people in chronic illness communities become distributors. My mom held up the records. You told us you needed $600 a month for treatment. For supplements that were keeping you alive. This says you were buying inventory for resale. You were running a business with our retirement money. Attacking, you're all ganging up on me because he's jealous. She pointed at me. He's always been jealous that I got attention. He can't stand that you love me more. I stayed quiet. I didn't need to defend myself. The evidence was doing that. Victimizing, maybe I needed to be sick to get any love from this family. Did you ever think about that? Maybe the only way anyone paid attention to me was if I was suffering. That stopped everyone. For a moment, there was silence. My mom spoke first. You had our love. You had our attention. You had our money, our time, our worry. You had everything we could give. And it was all based on a lie. 8 years, my dad said. 8 years we've given you everything. Our savings. Our retirement. I mortgaged the house. And you were hiking, dancing, selling supplements. My sister's performance finally cracked. The mask slipped away, and underneath was something harder, something colder than the fragile sick woman she'd been pretending to be. You wouldn't have given me anything otherwise, she said. Her voice was different now, stronger, clearer, not the weak trembling tone she'd used for years. You would have expected me to work, to struggle, to earn everything like he did. I didn't want that life. I wanted ease. And the illness gave me that. The honesty was almost more devastating than the lies. Update 5. The aftermath. My sister stormed out that night, calling us all toxic and unsupportive. Within days, she was posting on her main social media about family who abandons you when you're sick and being gaslit about your own health. Her chronic illness community rallied around her, sending supportive messages, sharing her posts, validating her victimhood. She doesn't know I have the Finsta screenshots. She doesn't know how much evidence I've saved. Maybe someday that will matter. Maybe it won't. She found a new boyfriend a few months later, someone who believes her illness narrative completely. New audience, same performance. I wonder sometimes how long it will last. How long before the photos don't match the story? How long before the supplements don't add up? How long before someone asks for a doctor's name and the silence gives the answer? But that's not my problem anymore. The hardest part of all this wasn't exposing my sister. It was watching my parents come to terms with what happened. They spent 8 years caring for a daughter who was lying. They sacrificed retirement, financial security, peace of mind, for a performance. And now they have to live with that. My mom can't stop calculating. We could have retired. We could have traveled. We could have helped you with your apartment instead of asking you to give it away. My dad is quieter. More broken. He doesn't talk about it much, but I see it in his face, the realization that his daughter stole years from his life. Not just the money, but the years he'll have to work to pay off that second mortgage. Years he should have spent resting, enjoying the life he built. The betrayal isn't just financial. It's existential. Their love was exploited as a revenue stream. They apologized to me. Not just for demanding my apartment, but for years of neglect. For never helping me while giving everything to her. For assuming I was fine because I never asked for anything. We thought you didn't need us, my mom said. You were so capable, so independent. We figured you were okay. I did need you, I admitted. I just learned not to ask. Because all the resources were going to someone who was faking need. The real need was invisible. The fake need got $230,000. We're rebuilding now. Slowly. Painfully. My parents are trying to figure out how to survive financially. The second mortgage, the drained retirement accounts, the years of payments ahead. I help where I can. But the wound is deep. 8 years deep. Resolution. The garden. My apartment is still mine. Ground floor. Small garden in the back. Quiet street. The apartment my sister wanted to take from me. I planted tomatoes last month. Small thing, but it matters. Something growing in soil that's mine. Something real in a family full of performances. My mom visits now. Every Sunday. She never did before. She was always across town, tending to my sister, worrying about my sister, caring for my sister. Now she comes to me. She brings coffee and we sit in the garden. She watches me tend the plants. Last Sunday, she looked at the tomato vines climbing their stakes and said, "You built all of this yourself." Not a question. An acknowledgement. I did. I should have been here sooner. Watching you build. Helping you grow. Instead, I was across town feeding a lie. You're here now. She reached out and touched a tomato plant leaf, gently, like it might break. These are healthy. I smiled. Real things usually are. Final thoughts. People ask if I feel guilty about exposing my sister. I don't. I feel guilty about the 8 years I stayed quiet while she drained my parents dry. I should have investigated sooner. Should have asked harder questions. Should have trusted my gut when it told me something was wrong the very first day she claimed to be sick. But I was 22, and she was convincing, and my parents were sure, and who questions illness? Who demands proof of suffering? Apparently, I do. After $230,000 and 8 years and a second mortgage and a nearly stolen apartment. I do now. 8 years. She faked an illness for 8 years. And my parents spent $230,000 they couldn't afford because they loved her too much to ask for proof. Love without verification isn't trust, it's a blank check. And she cashed it every month. She was hiking on weekends while telling them she couldn't climb the stairs to her apartment. Dancing at concerts while claiming she was too exhausted to cook. Playing volleyball while parents paid for medical supplements that were actually MLM inventory. The illness was her job, and it paid $2,400 a month. I asked her to name her condition. She listed 3 things that are notoriously difficult to verify and easy to fake. Asked for her doctor's name, he doesn't exist. Asked to see records, HIPAA. She built a fortress of vagueness and hid inside it for 8 years. Mom cried when she saw the photos. Not angry tears, grief tears. She was mourning 8 years of sacrifice that meant nothing. $230,000 that funded a lie. A retirement that evaporated into someone's hiking trips and MLM inventory. That's not just fraud. That's emotional murder. Dad took a second mortgage on his house for her treatment. He's 64 years old with a construction worker's body and now has 15 more years of payments because his daughter wanted to avoid working. She stole his retirement by pretending to be dying. I don't have a word for that. Evil feels too small. She said, maybe I needed to be sick to get love. That was her most honest moment in 8 years. She didn't fake illness because she was sick. She faked it because she discovered that sickness was currency in our family. And she spent that currency until the account was empty. Parents apologized for years of neglecting me while funding her performance. Mom said, we thought you didn't need us. I did need them. I just learned not to ask because all the resources were going to someone who was faking need. The real need was invisible. The fake need got $230,000. My sister is out there somewhere, performing her illness for a new audience. They'll believe her too, for a while. Until they don't. Until the photos don't match the story. Until the supplements don't add up. Until someone asks for a doctor's name and the silence gives the answer. My parents are rebuilding. Slowly. Painfully. Like people who survived a fire they didn't know was burning. My apartment is still mine. The garden is growing. And for the first time in 8 years, the truth lives in this family. It's uncomfortable. It's expensive. It arrived too late. But it's here. And unlike my sister's illness, it's real.